All right, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey listeners, welcome to another edition of Talking Catholic. This is another first for us. We've been rolling out a lot of firsts over the last couple of months. This one is one where none of us are in the same room together. We're doing a fully online recording. We're very hopeful that it'll sound okay, but please forgive us if it's a few more sound artifacts than usual, but we're very excited about this. And this is a special one. This is a project that I've been wanting to work on for at least 2 years. And what we did was we decided a few months ago that we were going to create a YouTube channel for Talking Catholic. It's actually going to be a part of the Catholic Star Herald, of which I am the associate publisher. And as part of it, we wanted to really create something where we could do every couple of weeks, 1 or 2 shows per week, 5 shows in total, where we're going to bring some of our very, how can I put this, well-formed and effervescent people to the front, and you can hear some of the laughing in the background at that. And but it's true, we have a lot of talent here in South Jersey, a lot of Catholic talent here in South Jersey. We really want to showcase it, and we want to offer inspiration and aspiration to the people of South Jersey. And what I found is that in my own life, certainly going to Mass is very important. My daily prayer life is very important, but I will say that in this technological world, I've actually found a great deal of comfort in some of the videos I see online, particularly on sites like YouTube. One of them in particular was a channel called Ascension Presents. It's part of Ascension Press, and there are a lot of notable presenters that come up that bring forth ideas that maybe we don't get a chance to talk about in our daily lives that often, but it's good to get feedback about it. So I have 4 of our new hosts, one of our I think she's about 2 or 3 months hosts now, and then one of our hosts wasn't able to make it so far. So I'm going to go down the list and introduce a few people. So starting from my right, Kari, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I guess it's your virtual right, because I'm technically not sitting.
You're kind of dead center right now on my screen.
Hi, everyone. It's Kari Janisse. Might recognize my voice from being a co-host with Mike on Talking Catholic on a few episodes throughout the time. But I'm glad to also be introducing myself not only as a Talking Catholic co-host and also a youth minister in our diocese, but the new host of Youth Ministry Insights, which is the YouTube channel I'll be hosting. So I am really excited about this. It's actually kind of been on my heart in different ways to do something like this, and now to be able to put it out through our diocese was the perfect answer through prayer to be able to do this. So I'm excited to give insights into youth ministry and what it really means to be a youth minister, the knit and grit about it, getting down into the details of it. But we're gonna start small and then go big. So basically starting at how to start a youth group and going into all the details of what goes into that. So I'm excited to kick off the year with this.
And Kari, before we got on the air, was saying, Mike, why do you make me go first all the time? Well, in this case, I remembered there was a reason why I had to go first, because yours is the first one up. Yours will be
okay, that's right.
Yours will be broadcast on January 13th, around noontime on January 13th of next year. So we're very excited about that.
Yes, so am I.
And then next up is someone who is probably very familiar to our podcast listeners, but our domestic church media folks haven't had a chance to listen to her voice yet. I get to hear her voice all the time as she tells me what to do on a semi-regular basis. But Donna Ottaviano-Britt is one of our new YouTube hosts. Thank you for joining us, Donna.
Thank you. And I am one of Mike's strong-armed hosts, I will say.
That's right.
So it's my pleasure to be here. I have been a guest on Talking Catholic, and it's been a really wonderful experience. I actually haven't been with the diocese that long, about 20 months, and had the great gift of being part of a tremendous small team that brought the Convocation of Catholic Leaders to Joy of the Gospel in South Jersey forward earlier this year. And really the focus of the show will really be around discipleship. How are we disciples to Jesus in the 21st century? How do we really have that first century mindset as the early apostles and disciples had it? And then how are we going forward as missionary disciples to form others? So there's a whole concept, if you think about the culture of the Catholic Church, and that's really about people being able to believe, then they behave, and then they belong. We'd really like to sort of shift that and make people feel as though they belong with us, right? That they're wanted, that they're desired, and we want them to be with us. And then over time, they come to believe because they're spending so much time with us. And then they behave, right? They want to do the things that we do out of love for Jesus. So we're going to spend some time in the show talking with people across the diocese and actually across the nation around what they're doing to be a church that's on mission, that moves outside of its church doors and engages with the culture and engages with those who are most in need of Jesus. So we're going to talk about all kinds of new ideas with that first century mindset.
That's delightful. I cannot wait to watch these. Now, Donna, you've as part of your work within the Convocation, you're actually kind of used to doing some YouTube videos. You were actually one of the first of the Camden Diocese directors to really embrace you, instead of just sending off a mass email or something like that, both in your work with pastors and in your work with the delegates, you were the first one to say, you know what, maybe they need to see my face and hear it out of my voice. Have you found that that doing things via video was beneficial in terms of getting reaction or getting buy-in?
Yeah, I think so, especially as all the different parish teams were preparing to come to the Convocation. Who wants to read a lengthy email? No one does. No. You know, and it came really out of my corporate experience. Was they realized, you know, at the headquarters that most people didn't want to read long and lengthy emails, but we were more than happy to engage with creative videos to get points across or information that needed to be shared. So I thought, well, let me try this. What was beautiful about it was how many people that I knew, or that I should say, knew me by the time we got to the Convocation. So it made it very, very fraternal, collegial, and it was really a wonderful experience by going out through video versus through, you know, extensive, lengthy emails that no one wants to read and no one does read.
Right. That's a spirit, Donna. But if you get an email from me, I want everyone to read it, even though Donna was the only one that didn't read the email I sent to her about putting her headphones on before the thing started. So, but thank you for doing it before we actually got to it. That was lovely. So our next host is someone who has kind of followed your lead a little bit, Donna. He, I would have to say, is probably the next most recognizable video host that we have. That's because he's taken to, unlike his predecessor who stayed off of video as much as he could, Father Adam Cichoski has been using Facebook and Facebook Live, or not Facebook Live, but Facebook videos to really engage with people who might be interested in vocations. So, Father, can you introduce yourself and what your show will be about?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I'm Father Adam Cichoski. I'm the vocation director for our diocese. So I've been recently appointed. So it's just been since July that I started, and it's been a great experience so far. Like you said, you've been a big help with John Kalitz and making me look good for the diocese and for the people on the internet. And it is just about reaching out to different people and in a different way, like Donna was saying, just having that personal kind of touch of inviting people and to think about a vocation and to see the joy of our seminarians and the different things that we do. And that's the hope for my YouTube channel, is to really take a deeper look into my life, not my life personally, but to meet some of my family, like my mom, and to see, you know, how entering the seminary, you don't really lose a son, or you don't lose, you gain such a great family, you gain such many more sons, as she would say, but also to take another look at you know, the different things that we do throughout the year. So there's one on the I-Race about getting ready to run for vocations, look at the seminary, but also want to talk to different people about their own vocation stories and how they were led to the life of a priest. And it's you know, every priest has a different story, and there's so many priests in our diocese that are willing to share, and especially with our men too, as they prepare for ordination and as they get ready for the big steps in their life. It's so important to hear from them and to see that hope and that future of our church as well. So there's a lot of different things that I want to be able to do. So hopefully it'll be a good channel. And the title is What a Life. and it's actually stole it from the Filipino community, who uses that expression a lot. And you can use it for good things or bad things, or wherever life may be. You can always say, what a life. But I always think of what a great life a life of a priest is. And hopefully that YouTube channel will be able to express that and really show how, how intricate it is, and how really it is such a part of our own background, and how we can share it with so many people. And it's a great joy to really do it, and to be a part of it. So I thank you for this opportunity. I know I've been late in getting a lot of things back to you, but it's been a little bit busy the last couple of weeks here.
That's okay. You're in very good company. None of these hosts, except for Kari, none of these hosts have been getting back to me on anything.
Why I go first, right?
Well, at least now we know we have to compete, who we have to compete with.
Right.
Sorry.
That's right.
I have a motto: you get it done right away, because 10 other things are going to come onto your desk and your plate.
That's right.
So
You
keep
are
going.
absolutely right, Kari. That is very true. So our fourth host, now the previous people I've introduced have been on the podcast many times over the course of the last couple of years, but the next host has only been on once. But she's worked within the diocese a couple of ways, and some people may have seen her, though she's a bit on the retiring side. She doesn't push herself out there in front of everybody very often. It took a little bit of arm twisting to get her to do that and boost her confidence a little bit. But I'm very excited to introduce Star Martinez. Star, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hey Mike. My name is Star, or officially Estrelita Martinez is my government name. I am the young adult director for the Violent Catholic Collaborative, and specifically I work with Catholic Millennial Ministry right now. And my YouTube channel is really just pretty much an outlet for young adults, so that they're able to listen to topics within the church and the faith that are relatable, and just make it relatable to their everyday life. Things like confession, those things are scary. Things like feast days within the church that maybe not a lot of young adults know about. Just certain topics that will make everything a lot more understandable and just brought down to their level, and just make it more interesting for them, because right now we're facing a lot of young adults who are just disinterested and really just want something that just makes sense to them. And so I really hope that this is an outlet for them to kind of just sit back and say, oh, well, maybe faith isn't really a bad thing, or, the Catholic Church, my faith is really important to me. And by learning these different things, I'm hoping that they're able to just become more interested and more involved in their faith, and become empowered as young adults within the church, because they can make so much change. Really, they have a lot to offer as young people, and so my hope is that this will empower them to really just to get involved.
And you're sort of working in that demographic, and I think Donna and the rest of the crew, and Kari and Father Adam, actually all of our hosts, I don't know why I'm calling them out by name, might agree with this, is that you're working with that danger demographic that is the most likely to walk away from the church.
Correct.
Where you've just left high school, you're no longer under your parents' thumb, and it's so easy, and historically this is proven true, it's so easy to walk away from the church unless there's some anchor bringing you back. I was fortunate. I happened to become friends with and then start dating a woman who was very tied into her church, never really ever left, because she had been part of the Newman House at Rowan University, and then she had this very strong group of friends who were very Catholic, and I'm convinced that I would not be where I am today if it hadn't been for me meeting that woman and then eventually marrying her, but just as importantly being within her circle, that brought me back. And what I found was that it wasn't, as a young adult, it wasn't so much the mass that saved me from moving away. The mass will always be important. I'm not suggesting otherwise, but that the mass is one element, and it requires a great deal more. And I'm very excited that your show is going to be dealing with those young adults, because I know how tricky it can be, and they need good content and good role models to be successful. Definitely. Not that the other, and that's not to suggest that the other demographics don't. We just know that the young adults are in the danger area. So our fifth new host, unfortunately, could not make the call tonight. She was called away at the last minute. Her name is Alexis Keefer. She goes by Lex. Her show, she has a very unique backstory, which there is no way I can possibly do justice to it, other than say that she has had a lot of medical issues over her life. Matter of fact, one just recently that's pushed back her start date a little bit for us. She has several chronic issues that she's learned to not so much overcome as much as learn to embrace and make them part of her daily life. She's a brilliant young woman, very, very strong in terms of her spiritual formation, but also very understanding of the world. And because of her life, she sees things in the world far differently than, say, a jaded, bitter PR guy would. And I only met her once, and I was so taken with her that I really thought it was important that she might be someone that other people would receive inspiration from, and her stories and the manner in which she views the world. So I'm not going to go a great deal into her show. Her show will be debuting later in the year. Hopefully it'll be sometime in January, but it might be pushed back to February, March, depending on when she's feeling better. But I'm very, very excited about her joining the lineup as well. And then finally, our sixth YouTube host has actually already had a show. Her show started a couple of months ago. Now, she is currently in the Dominican Republic, and her phone is currently muted, so we don't know how. Oh no, I'm sorry. She's back. She's back. Okay, she's in the Dominican Republic, so I can't guarantee how great the sound quality is going to be, but I'm very excited to have her on. She's also one of the co-hosts of Talking Catholic. Her name is Marianela Nunez, and her show that's been on for a while is Compartiendo Tu Don, a show that I help produce with her. Now, for everyone else, all my other hosts, before I let her speak, because I might not get a word in edgewise afterwards, I'm going to tell you that it took 2 years of working with Marianela to finally get her to agree to do this show. So you've all been basically working on this idea for about 4 months, but for her, I tried twisting her arm for a long time, and once we finally got it up and running, it's been stellar. We've had one screw up on my end on a recording thing, but we were able to salvage the audio. But how many episodes are you in there? Actually, before I get into that, Marianela, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Marianela Nunez, and I am, the co-host.
Uh-oh. Did we lose her again?
That was quick.
Well, she wasn't wrong. She is the co-host. Whatever else she was going to say after that is even more. Maybe we'll catch her back in a second. Oh, okay. I'm actually watching on my screen as she drops in and drops out. You there, Marianela?
I am here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we heard up to I am a co-host.
Okay. I am a co-host for Compartiendo Tu Don, and basically in this show we are trying to reach out more to the Hispanic community and to sort of like extend our arms as the Diocese of Camden of the things we're doing, and of the things that only that we are doing as the diocese, but also the things that people are doing across the diocese, like in different parishes, because that's where really the action happens. And I am really thrilled that I accepted Mike's suggestion to start this show. He pushed me hard to get it started, but basically I feel so happy to be doing something like this for the Hispanic community and for the Diocese of Camden. It's been a blessing, and I love working with my producer who doesn't speak any Spanish. He's learning.
I hope all the other hosts are listening to this. Butter me up, all right? You get more stuff that way. Marianela, how many shows have we done now?
I believe 7.
7 shows, okay. And
yes.
it's Spanish language only.
We are going to do number 8 on the 1st of January 1st. It's going to be in the number 8. Yeah, and
that's an important one. The 8th episode, we talk with Rod Herrera, who's the director of the Office of Child and Youth Protection. We've done a lot in the English language side, with really promoting all the work that the Catholic Church does to protect young people in our parishes, in our schools, and in our ministries. But sometimes because of, I will admit it, my communications department is primarily Anglo. We don't have a lot of Spanish speakers, so it's hard for us to create a lot of content. The Office of Hispanic Ministry does a very good job, but certainly they're also very much tied up in other work as well. So one of the reasons we created this YouTube show was so that we could bring a lot of the stuff that my office does to promote the work we do in the diocese for the, but it's all English language, primarily English language. We wanted to make sure there was an outlet for Spanish language and something that we could really, really push and move things along. And I have, as you have all learned, I have a great deal more influence in twisting people's arm out of my office. So having an outlet in the Spanish community, or Spanish language community, I think is important. Marianela, can you talk about some of the guests you've had on the show? Oh, and you might want to mention your co-host. He's pretty good too.
Of course, very important. Jose Rodriguez is my co-host, and we have a great time together talking to people across the diocese and the different ministries where they are and how they serve. And the meaning of Compartiendo Tu Don is like sharing your gift. And we always ask people what their gift is and how they're sharing it with others and with our church. So it's been a wonderful experience. I think people are enjoying the shows. It's a little bit long for a video show.
Yeah, that's interesting. Our typically when I came up with this idea of doing these YouTube shows, I had it in my head for them to be about 5 to 10 minutes long. No set time. That's the beauty of doing things online. You don't have to have a set time. But for Compartiendo Tu Don, it actually is a bit more of a marriage of a YouTube show and an interview show like Talking Catholic. So whereas the rest of these YouTube shows will be between 5 and 10 minutes, Marianela's show has gone between 20 and 30. And actually, you're getting much longer, I've noticed. I think every episode has been a few minutes longer than the previous episode, Marianela. But I think I'm okay with that.
I have to keep watching our timer, Mike.
But the guests have been good. You've had Women Religious. You've had Andres Arango, the director of the Hispanic Ministry Program. You've had a couple of priests on. So the difficulty for me, of course, is even though I made a New Year's resolution in 2019 to learn Spanish, I have not been successful. I have, however, been able to, as being your producer in the room, I've used osmosis to learn a few Spanish words, but I really need to do better. So I downloaded a new app, Marianela. I was using Duolingo, and now I'm using Babbel. So I'm going to give Babbel a try in 2020.
I have to check it out to see how good that is, Mike.
Okay. It says it was highly rated on the iTunes store, so I figured I'd give it a try.
Mike, I have to invite your listeners, because if they don't speak Spanish, the last show we did with Edward Facenda, who is the choir director for St. Joseph Cathedral Parish, he sang a beautiful song that even if you don't speak Spanish, you'll be able to enjoy. So please check it out, people. It's Compartiendo Tu Don on YouTube. I'm sure Mike is going to post all those links on our website.
Will. Absolutely. So yes. So the next question I have is sort of like a question too is, well, why are you doing this? Now, I have my own feelings about YouTube show and what's called new media. Traditional media would be broadcast television and newspapers. New media is basically everything that happens online, primarily this podcast, for instance, the YouTube shows, things of that nature. So particularly to Kari and, well, once again, why am I breaking this down? Kari and Star, you both work with young people more frequently and younger people than the rest of us on a regular basis. Have you noticed that things like YouTube shows and social media are stronger avenues than other ways of communication, and in addition to communication, but other ways of educating young people?
Yes, it's like the only
definitely.
If you don't have some kind of texting app to reach them, you're not reaching them, or unless you're on Instagram.
They're not answering you or anything.
No, they're not going to read an email.
Everything's by text, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, even. That's
putting stuff on a story.
Definitely,
it's got to be instant.
Yep, instant. They want to see it right there, right now, and
and available. It's got to be right there, readily available.
definitely.
That makes a lot of sense from the communication standpoint. What about the education standpoint? Have you found that the young people are more likely to watch, a YouTube show as opposed to a DVD or Netflix or a television show?
Yeah, they're real big with YouTube. Also, I would say like Netflix series. You hear a ton about the different Netflix series they're into at this point, what they're
all the
binge watching,
and who knows what else that they have going on. But definitely YouTube is it's a great outlet because you're just able to create anything you want and in a way that is relatable to everybody. So yeah,
and accessible. It's right there
Definitely.
that they could just find it. I'll get asked different questions about, did you put this out there on YouTube yet? Because we'll film like little skits of our at our retreats or on different events, and they'll say, did you put it out there yet? I want to see it. I want to access it. Or where's this video from 2015 that I was in? And I'm like, oh my God, look on our channel. It's on there somewhere. So they definitely want to go to it and access it like right there on the spot. And so that's what YouTube does offer. It offers them accessibility and right away. And that's the beauty of it, is that it's always up there. It could be 3 a.m. and they can't fall asleep, and or you, not even just youth, anybody, and you could just go and access that and watch a couple videos and be inspired in the sense what you're doing as a diocese with these YouTube channels. And I think that's really great to be able to offer that, because there's so many other options out there on the internet that they could be watching, or in particular youth and young adults who we work with, and be able to offer something that can give inspiration. That's the best.
Definitely. And there's this thing called the YouTube black hole, where you just get sucked in. You click on one video, and then there's the next video
videos.
and the next one. So how great would it be for you to click on one video and then by some chance stumble upon ours, and then start to get interested, like, oh, these videos are pretty cool. So it's pretty probable for it to happen.
That's exactly what my game plan was. I have an 11-year-old son, and really the reason I started really pushing this is because I found that he's certainly not addicted to YouTube, but he will spend more time on YouTube than even me. And I will admit I've been down that black hole many a time. But he'll do it the same way. And what I found was he was coming back at me with really good content. Like he's finding a lot of don't get me wrong. I know that the internet, and for all the great things you can find on there, there's a lot of dark things you can find on there as well. But I've been very pleased where here's the 6th grader and his buddies, and they're finding like a lot of science stuff, a lot of educational things, a lot of faith things, a lot of history, which I was like, you know what, these kids, and I don't have to tell them to do it. He's there. It's so interesting that they're finding it themselves. So it's the onus is on me, and by default, you guys, to really create outstanding content, really, really useful content. I'm curious, Father Adam, you're seminarians. Have they been, are they YouTube and new media devotees as well? Are there things that they're particularly liking to see online?
Yeah, I think so. And, there's a lot of good stuff, like you said, especially, when we look like back in the past of like Venerable Fulton Sheen or even Robert Barron and Father Mike Schmidt, they all have put out a lot of good quality in short segments, and that's, I think, as Kari and Star were saying about the importance of just having everything kind of condensed, where you're there for a purpose, and you're there for a couple minutes, and it just keeps your attention long enough where you're able to really, those seeds are planted and helped. And I know YouTube has helped me in a lot of ways, whether it's fixing things on my car or fixing things of technology. There's always great instructional videos that are always available and right there at our fingertips. But to have something that can give you a great sense of that spiritual side of things, and being able to, just get like a little piece of something is so important. And it does, keep you going into hopefully not that black hole, but hopefully into something that is going to, really, like you said, make ourselves better, kind of promote ourselves through our faith, and just having that great connection and being able to reach so many people in this time of technology and our community. And it's just, I think, a great example. And I know our seminarians would, in the seminary, we used it a lot, just to, for homilies and things like that, you would get online and you would be able to hear different takes on things, and especially with the Spanish language. I know I listen to it a lot, trying to pick up things, and especially in homilies, and to see the way they deliver things, and to see the way that they're able to share things. It makes a big difference to see, their approach to it, and how, I have to kind of, follow that example and try. It's not easy to imitate their examples, but it's, it does give you like a goal to strive for, and it gives you a lot to
Your
listen
Spanish
to
is great,
practice.
Father.
Oh, poco a poco, little by little, we're getting there.
I'll have to have you in my show.
Yeah, necesito practicar con ustedes y practicar mucho más en el futuro, como Miguel y su decisión a estudiar español.
All right, you've just talked yourself into a guest spot on the.
That's right.
Matter of fact, I might make you
What-
the producer.
What was that app again? Babel? I need to get that because I don't know what he said.
So Donna, go ahead.
I speak perfect Spanglish, so it comes into.
We can do that, Father. I'm sorry for my connection.
So Donna, you're our resident dealing with adults on a more regular basis than young people. We talked about it a little bit, that, when you were sending out your video emails, that people seem to be more likely to respond. Have you, in your work with the delegates to the convocation, and since then, your parish interactions, have you found that new media has a place, or are our older Catholics still sort of, reading off of paper, like Philistines?
Right, they're a little bit. You know what? I think it's quite a blend, right? So if you look at everyone that participated in the convocation, we have a blend of delegates. Some are actually quite media savvy, which is very helpful to us, right? So a lot of these, how shall I call them, middle-aged adults are actually doing a lot at their parishes and actually with themselves in terms of how they're promoting their work, even using the other social media platforms. Like everybody's on Facebook, right? We know the young people are not on Facebook. It's where the middle-aged folks are the more, how shall I say, I shouldn't say middle-aged, the more seasoned.
Seasoned, yes, that's what I use all the time. Seasoned.
Yes, more seasoned Catholics are in Facebook and other places. And I think once we promote this YouTube channel to them, I think it actually would be very helpful to them, because everyone is trying to figure out, how do we engage the culture? How do we move outside the doors of our church? And I think this will be very helpful. So for example, the delegates now, they had a chance to meet each other, certainly at the convocation. There's now 5 lay leadership teams that overlap the clergy deaneries, right? So, and they have loved being able to come together, that environment, and share their ideas. This actually will allow the sharing to go even further, right? So when we begin to highlight the work that's happening, I can see so much synergy even with all of my colleagues here, Mike, that you have pulled together to host these shows.
Me, I'm all about synergy.
Right. Well, it's good. You actually know what the word means. But I'll just say that. Hey. But I really think there's a lot of overlap. So Father Adam is talking about vocations. I also talk about vocation. The vocation of the laity is to bring God to the people, right? So that's really what we talk about. Who do we talk about the most? Are the unaffiliated, right? Or our young people that are at risk, whether they're in youth with Kari or whether they're young adults with STAR. I too have a Spanish language deficit, so Marianela was very helpful as we headed into.
Thank you, daughter.
So I had the Duolingo, I had Babel, I had Duolingo. I just need to have a little bit more time and probably someone to chat with, to check what I'm doing. So, but I think from this YouTube TV channel, I think it allows us to get more ideas, more exposure of what our people are doing, but also I've lined up a number of guests over the next couple of months from outside of our diocese to come and be on the show, to share what they're doing, because it's different, because we cannot continue to do what we have always done. We're still Catholic. We're not changing the teachings of Catholic Church, but we have to find new ways to engage here in the 21st century. So I often will talk about, what is your personal mission? You have been uniquely designed by God to accomplish that mission. And how do we go forward and live our baptismal call around discipleship and missionary discipleship? So I actually think it's a very exciting time to be in the Catholic Church.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I agree with you. I've been very excited to see, how can I put this? So I've been asking these questions because, I have the benefit of going around the diocese a lot in my role as the director of communication. So I'm always taking pictures and doing videos and, publicizing things left and right. One of the things, so there was one other element of what I was doing or what I was seeing as I went around, and that actually was the Hispanic ministry, where I would go to these events, and unlike in Anglo masses, English language masses, I would go to these Spanish language masses, and everybody was on their phone, but not in a bad way. They were all live streaming, and I don't mean like high-end high masses as well as just your average ordinary Sunday mass. People were live streaming things left and right, oftentimes the homily, but other things as well. And I kind of realized that, I'm certainly not old school by nature, but I did grow up in an old school way, and I realized pretty quickly that we couldn't rely on just doing what we've been doing all the time. So, for Star and Marianela, have you found in the Spanish language cultures that there's a greater appreciation for seeing things on social media and interacting on social media?
Definitely.
I totally think that's the case, Mike. People, one of my desires with the show is that sort of like the name diocese becomes more like, something that people understand in the Hispanic community, because sometimes people don't think about the Catholic Church thinking about diocese. They think more like, about their parish and their local church. And so I want to bring that understanding that, we are global church that, and that diocese is sort of like the mother of all the little churches we have in the diocese. The Hispanic community, it's really, we love videos and we love sharing. And, you go to a mass, and if you look at everything, it's beautiful, and they want to share it. They want to share it with their friends, with their family. And I think creating content that is Catholic, that is promoting our church in a different way, it's really important. And it's a way to get more Latinos to sort of like stay with us. And it's a very important ministry. What do you think, Star?
I also think it's super important, only because a lot of people, especially a lot of Hispanic people who have family maybe in different countries, or who they're not near, and they're able to, let's say they're at mass or at a cafe for example, Guadalupe. A lot of them have family in Mexico, and so the only way they're able to connect with their family is through live stream on Facebook. And so it's very vital that we stay connected, through social media and stuff like that, because that's maybe for some people that is their only way to connect and to share their faith through video or, pictures, stuff like that. So,
that makes a lot of sense. And even that was something I hadn't considered before was you're absolutely right. The Hispanic culture, still predominantly, or not predominantly, but still a great element of recent immigrants to the United States. And that's very true. It is a great way of streaming something back. The other thing is, I go to a lot of Latino masses. I was just at the Our Lady of Guadalupe feast day masses, and listen, I know that as someone who came out of the English language masses, that there's sometimes a reticence to go to a Spanish language or bilingual mass. But one of the beauties of it is Spanish language masses are a lot of fun. There is a lot of energy. There is a lot of joy. There is a lot to show. I mean, sometimes I think we fall into traps in English language masses where it becomes rote. I was at a mass just recently. I won't say any more details, but I was at a mass recently, and it was not a funeral mass, but it was solemn and sullen. And it is not, and all I kept thinking was, I had to take pictures at it. All I kept thinking was, man, this is going to be really hard to promote online because nobody looks like they're having a fun time. And I'm not, and if you were to ask me why that was the case, I don't know why that was the case. But I've been to the Filipino morning masses during the Christmas,
Simba Gabi. Muggaby.
Yeah, exactly. And man, they're a blast. And there's always a ton of food afterwards. So, I think it might behoove us to be, particularly in our English language masses, to be a little more joyful in them. How about Donna? I mean, this is sort of falls into your line of work. Have you been pushing the idea of showing some joy during our public celebrations? Not just the Mass. I mean, all of them. I mean, prayer services.
And I've had the great privilege of running a number of missions across the diocese since the convocation. And we spent some time talking about joy, right? Because we should be joyful because of what we know, what we understand, what our relationship is with Jesus. And so there is much to be joyful for. And I often will say, there is nothing worse than a dour Catholic. Why would you want to come and be with us? If we are not happy and joyful people, we are also the people of hope. And we should look as though we have some hope, right? So in all of the different things that we're trying to do across the diocese, all of these really wonderful people doing some really yeoman's work in the parishes now to create a different kind of an environment. Really, it's about being joyful. And that, what do people want? So if we look, what are people most afraid of in the world? They're afraid of being rejected, of not being accepted, of not being loved. And so let us, with an open heart, with a joyful heart, bring others to us. And we need to be joyful people if we're going to attract them. Because we can't we need to make people thirsty. You can't make them drink, but we can surely make them thirsty by being joyful, by attracting them in to what is good and what is true and what is beautiful. And I think that's us. We just don't do a good enough job of sort of radiating that to the outside world, if that makes sense.
It does. And it's also the reason you six were tasked with this job, is because I can never be one of these hosts because I admit I'm not one of the joyful ones. I realize that. I know my limitations, but I also know that it's important to showcase joy. And I think all of you do it in your daily lives on a regular basis. And I'm really very excited to see what kind of shows you bring forth. So I'm going to go down the line again and ask you a couple of questions. Kari, can you give us...
always first.
That's right, of course.
Thank God.
Always the guinea pig. Kari, can you give us a taste of like what's coming? Is you actually, unlike I only required 12 shows out of everybody over the course of 24 weeks. You gave us an entire year of programming that you'd like
sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, this is why you go first.
Well,
can you give us some examples of some shows you're hoping to
So first I want to give credit where credit's due. And when you asked me, I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to think of like 6 months and then end up being a year's worth of content? And I was stressing over it. And I said, wait a minute, I got to go to my greatest resources, which are my youth, my young adults, because I do run youth and young adult ministry. And the young adults that are currently in it have mostly come through the youth ministry program. So I held 2 meetings on 2 different nights and invited them to come and just chat and say, hey, what comes to mind when you think of youth and young adult ministry, when you think of the ministries you've been a part of, what would be interested for other people to hear about that are interested in starting a youth ministry program in their parish or enhancing their one that they already have. So they just, it was left and right spitting out details of different things. So I was able to come up with a year. And, we start off with the basics, basically introduction, who I am, my background in youth ministry, and then foundations of youth ministry, how to get a youth ministry started. Then we go into marketing youth ministry, because let's face it, you got to market it, you got to sell it in a way. Some of the other things, we're going to do some series. So one of the series is going to be on how to run a retreat. We'll plan a retreat, run a retreat, and execute it within the faith. That's a 3-part series. So that's going to be coming up probably around March, which is, I planned it that way because we have a big retreat in February, at the end of February. So I'll be kind of just coming right off of that. All the details will be fresh in my mind, and we'll be sharing that. How to lead core teams of youth within the youth ministry program that could be leaders to the other youth groups, because youth ministry is not just high school, it's not just middle school, it can start younger, and as we know, it could go older to young adults. You want me to keep going? Keep going a few more? Is that enough?
Just give people a taste. Okay. But I appreciate that you, unlike some of my hosts, have everything figured out. So Donna, what about you? Can you talk about some of your shows and maybe some of your guest hosts that you're not your guests, not guest hosts, but guests you're planning on having on?
Yeah, so we're going to go out to the parishes because we have some really beautiful work that's happening in the parishes now to really create this environment that help parishioners see that they have their baptismal call called them to be missionary disciples too. Everyone has to be responsible. So I want to tag on to something that Kari just said, is that in the space of youth, you can't just rely on having a youth minister in your parish. The whole parish is responsible for that.
Parish, you're right.
Right? Everybody is responsible for the young people. It will be the same way in discipleship. You can't think, oh, good, other parishioners are doing things. No, we're all in, right? There is actually great responsibility in baptism. And that is, are we living radically for Jesus? And then are we forming other disciples for him? So there's some really great and unique and innovative things that are happening around the diocese that are simple. They're not hard to do, right? To begin to engage people and give people a sense of community and have them be part of our parishes. Because the statistics are, even with new people that join a parish, individuals or families, inside of 12 weeks, if they do not believe they belong, they're gone and we've lost them, right? So what are some of the ways that we can think about what are all the avenues of people into our parishes? How do they cross our threshold and who is there to meet them? Because our people come to us all manner of ways, in wounded ways, in joyful ways, and how do we engage them? So it's really going to be about engagement. So we're gonna highlight parishes. So I've got a couple of lay leaders that are coming on the show. We've got a couple of really great and very excited people that have converted to Catholicism after long, lives lived in other faiths. So they're coming to join us. We also, so far I have committed Chris Lowney, who's the author of Everyone Leads, which is the book everyone read to prepare to come to the convocation. He's going to join us sometime in March around the 1-year anniversary. And then we're going to line up some guests that are coming from outside of our own diocese to highlight some of the work they've done to give us ideas. Because the intention is not that we would replicate anybody else's work. This is not about a program, because programs don't change hearts necessarily. They deepen the faith of the convicted. But we need to find new and different ways to do joyful outreach. And so we want to give people ideas around what's possible.
That's awesome, Don. I'm really looking forward to all of the shows, but knowing what you have coming up, I'm definitely looking forward to that. Father Adam now Father Adam he's actually got all of his episode titles figured out, and
wow.
But he's could you tell us about your episode titles a little bit, Father Adam?
Yeah, well, I kind of stole them from different songs that music is always constantly playing, whether walking or in the car. It was something that I really grew up with as well. So I kind of stole it from this 90s TV show called Grounded for Life. All their episodes were named after songs. So I said, this would be a good idea, and this would kind of get me started to think about things. And it was just a lot of different songs that I heard or different songs that I liked growing up, but they all related to a lot of questions that people would ask me, or people would ask while promoting vocations, different things about, what did your family think? What is it like in the seminary? What is it like getting ready for ordination? What are some of the assignments, or what do you guys do for fun, or do on, when you're not in class, or when you're not in church, what's real life like? And so I really wanted to give like that different side, but also to give, a good perspective on it, so that people, it's not going to answer all their questions, but it'll give them a bigger insight on the things that do happen, and the things that go on, and how it is a joyful life. Like you said, it's one that's full of great things, and it's not something that is always great, but it's something that we love to do, and that we continue to do, always with the help of God and the Holy Spirit guiding us constantly. But I hope that this channel kind of breaks things up and kind of shows people the many different sides of what it means to have a vocation to the priesthood, and how our communities, our families, our friends are all a part of our journey, and they never leave us. And there are people there that kind of encourage us and keep us always grounded in a lot of ways too, and keep us always focused on what truly matters, and that is finding that happiness that God wants us to have.
Yeah. Do you happen to recall what any of the songs are that you?
Oh, yeah, I had Born to Run. That was for the iRace one.
Good.
Yeah, the Welcome Home Sanitarium. That was from the Metallica days. That was for. I figured that was a good one for the seminary. Just getting the seminary life. My Mom Coming Home. That was definitely for the one I wanted when I'm interviewing my mom, just to get her side to see what she thought of the journey. So there was a couple other that I can't recall, but I know
those are three
it's
great
trying
ones.
to get So it's all different, different times and different reasons to listen, I guess, to those songs. But
so Star, what about you? Do you have some ideas about what your episodes might be?
Yes. So, like I said earlier, it's just something I want to do for the young people so that they're able to understand some topics easily, and, broken down a lot more in a practical way that they can, use in their daily lives, and really just understand. And so, in January, I'll be talking about, questions that maybe some young adults face throughout their faith journey. And I'm going to invite a couple of young adults that I know who would be really perfect for this, who have, been through the question phase, through the yes, I'm on fire phase, and everything in between. And then once Lent comes into the picture, I'm going to start talking about Lent, things that you can do to prepare, what young people can do to prepare, something practical for them that makes sense. And then once we get back into ordinary time, talk about, what is your purpose, your vocation as a young adult, in the faith, how to love as God loves, that right now we're going through a time where there's so much hate and judgment and, so much chaos, and how to kind of incorporate your faith into that, and how can young adults love in a culture of judgment, a lot of judgment. And then we're going to come into Pentecost, and how can we share our gifts as young adults? What can we do? How can we share our gifts to our parishes, to our community, ways that we can serve more? And in the summer, I'm not really sure yet, but
we got time.
We got time. We're plenty of time. So,
and I do hope that the six of you will steal from each other on a regular basis. Yes. By all means, feel free to appear on each other's shows. Much like our podcast, I like to think of YouTube as sort of the wild, wild west, in the sense that there really are no rules. The only rule you ever have to really adhere to is the rule of respecting your audience. It's the one thing we can't really control ourselves in terms of who our audience is, but we can always respect them and get feedback from them, and read the comments and understand and talk to people offline and see, are we hitting the mark? Are we not hitting the mark? I tell everyone the most important lesson that I ever learned with having the podcast was making sure I listened to it after it was done, to see, well, for one thing, just how many of 100 times I will say the word during a podcast, and see if I can knock that down to 50. You guys are fortunate. You guys will be submitting your files to us, and myself and John Kalitz will be going through them and editing them. So unlike the podcast, which I do virtually no editing on, your shows will be doing quite a bit. So they'll be a bit more polished than they are. You'll each have your own logos. You'll each are going to have, and these are things you do, of course, but you're all going to have your own social media channels. The YouTube channel is going to be one primary channel. It's going to have all the episodes on it, and that'll be right now it's called YouTube Talking Catholic YouTube. It doesn't have a vanity URL yet because we need to get 100 subscribers to do that, but we'll have eventually it'll be YouTube / Talking Catholic. We're actually also going to be looking to build a dedicated website. So you'll go to that one website and you'll be able to find all of the shows at the same time. You'll be able to find the Talking Saints podcast, the Talking Catholic podcast, Compartiendo Tu Don, and your 5 shows as well. So we're really looking forward to it. We really want to, our goal was to create sort of a regionalized EWTN. Something that's available for everybody. We certainly would love to see this become out in the real world every place, but we also know that people in South Jersey and New Jersey in general, maybe Philadelphia, will take an interest in it. I can tell you that Father Adam we're able to track on our podcast where people are listening to it. And historically, one of our biggest listenerships is in Rome. So we know our seminarians are listening to the show. They actually tell us that it helps with homesickness every now and again to hear some familiar voices on the podcast. So I suspect YouTube will have the same effect. So we got about 30 seconds. I just want to thank you all for agreeing to. We're recording this late on a Friday evening. All of my hosts decided to join. Marianela Nunez, I've had to mute you because a lot of sound was bleeding in, so I apologize for having to do that. But thank you very much for joining us from the Dominican Republic. And Donna has to run to some sort of event she's hosting in her house right now, so we gotta tie things up right now. But thank you all for coming. I hope everybody has a wonderful new year, and I'm really looking forward to this hitting the mark. And the first one comes out on January 13th, and it'll be Kari, Janisse.
Excellent.
All right.
Thanks.
Good night,
God bless
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you, Mike.
Everybody.
God bless.
Good night.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.